To me, like a rhythm track. Sounds to me like a rhythm track that she's going to rap to.
No, I am not.
No.
Negative ghostwriter. There will be no rapping. So yeah, last week we took a little vacation. A few of us went off the grid or on the grid and wandered off. So the newsletter is a little light this week. What do we have here? So the JournoDAO token is on Optimism Testnet. DM us on Twitter to find out more about it. And Keith, this is Keith's baby. He's been doing some amazing work on that. So I'll let him talk about it more in a minute. We're a few weeks out from conferences, ONA 22 in LA, MCon in Denver, and Media Party in Buenos Aires, which I'm hoping Eric will take lots of pictures because I want to see all that. Let's see, join our Telegram group for updates for stuff we're gonna do in person for all of those events. And let's see, so I'm gonna let Keith talk about tokens. Collabs and conversations. Eric put some really good topics. This stuff we've kind of been bouncing around just internally or on Twitter or just in conversations about stuff to talk about today. But these are all really good themes that kind of seem to be resurfacing over and over again. And the blockchain investigative project with JournoDAO is evolving and morphing and changing, which is a lot of fun to see. It's very interesting. And then Eric published an article on Forbes this week about the Tornado Cash sanctions and all of the blowback from that, and took a different spin on that story. So be sure to read it. It was a really good take on things. And let's see. So Focher and Unlock Protocol got together and made a little breaking news baby. Basically, Focher was trying to figure out, so they've got the mobile app that allows you to take photos and then mint on chain from your phone. And they were trying to figure out a way for journalists to be able to publish later after the fact, because a lot of times when you're in the field, it's just too fast. You don't have time to sit there and actually write what you're trying to say if you're documenting on a mobile device. So they didn't want to build a web platform from scratch or just didn't have the resources. So it connected them with Unlock Protocol, because Unlock had made a protocol called Headline that they wanted to basically be a substitution or replacement for Substack. So Focher was able to go in, fork their repo, and then just build something that met their needs. But it's also just going to be, I think, a really interesting web publishing platform that will give some of the other players in the space a little run for their money. So that's definitely dive into that when you have a second. Yeah, and then I minted some stuff on Foundation that has a split on it. So 75% of the proceeds go directly into our treasury, which I think is a kind of a fun way to raise money for Impact DAOs. And one other thing in here, we've kind of been talking a little bit about.
Before you move off of that, would you mind just explaining what Foundation is and why you chose that as a minting platform?
Yeah, so I've been on Foundation for about a year now. It's an NFT platform mostly for one-of-one. I think it's only one-of-one editions. So it started off as an invite-only platform. So I can't remember how I got an invite. It's since opened up to everyone, so everyone can use it. It's just for me, it's a little bit of a higher end platform than OpenSea. And what they recently allowed you to do a few months ago was to create your own artist contract. So that was the main reason I stayed with Foundation. So when I decided to mint this collection, I originally minted it to help fund the actual going to DC and documenting. I didn't sell anything, but it was still there. So I was able to put it under my own token. When you do your own artist smart contract, then you're not beholden to the platform. So it's just a much more, it's just a better way for artists to maintain their art and control of their art. You do have to pay gas every time you mint an artwork on Foundation, which is the difference, a big difference between Foundation and OpenSea, because OpenSea is a lazy mint. So you don't have to pay the gas fees when you mint your artwork. And then within Foundation, one of the reasons I chose it for this specific use case is that they allow you to make a split when you're minting an individual piece of artwork. So I can go in this collection, I have some of the artwork has a split that goes directly to the Choice DAO, which is a new DAO for women's reproductive rights. And then for this part, I was able to just go ahead and put the JournoDAO ETH address in the split, and it mints it when I'm minting the art. So it's a much easier and efficient way to just go ahead and put that split in. And what that does is as soon as someone collects it, it automatically sends the money into whatever wallet addresses I've put in that split. So there's no middleman. I don't have to move the money around and send it to the treasury. It just goes into the treasury account. So this is something that I'm playing with. Hopefully it'll work. And then I want to begin to teach other artists how to do that, because Foundation is very easy to use for this. It's very user friendly. So
Sweet, thanks. Yeah, and thanks
Sure.
for making the contribution.
Anytime. And Keith, I'll kick it over to you for your token goodness.
Yeah, Eric, I don't know if you wanted to maybe make it more of a discussion rather than just an update, but we do have the prototype up where you can basically, it's the Stripe sandbox. They have like, when you're testing out Stripe's integration, you can use like fake credit cards and make fake payments and stuff. So you can go on the prototype and, donate like $5 and then send. And this is, I just arbitrarily decided like $1 is 10 Journo tokens or whatever. We can talk about that. But and so if you donate $5, then you find a journalist on Twitter. There's like a little search box, and then you choose which journalist you want the journo to go to, and then do the Stripe checkout thing. And then at that point, the app is storing like that you've made the payment, and that the tokens need to go to this Twitter handle. And then the Journo bot, that is an account I started. Ideally, when things are working, it's broken right now, but we'll like ping the person on Twitter that you'd sent them to via a tweet, like, hey, you have some Journo tokens to come claim, and we can like need some help with that messaging, is like what that alert should look like. And then, so if that person gets that and then comes and claims, all they have to do is connect their wallet, and then at that point the contract will mint tokens and put it in their wallet. But until then, like, the tokens don't really exist. We just kind of have the donation, and then it's up to, and like the intent to give to this person. So like ideally, we won't just have Twitter, and you could send via a wallet address specifically, but hopefully this will kind of start that discussion with journalists about like the benefits of them having a wallet and like a public address that people can like reach them at, and that sort of thing. And then the end result is that the first thing we're kind of building around that is a leaderboard where you can just see the top token holders, and I'm at the top because I had to test sending testnet tokens to myself. But then I figure there'll also be like a burn functionality, which I'm going to build for myself first, so I can like burn some of those tokens. Like if for some reason it's bothersome to you that people are sending you Journo tokens, you can just go and like burn them and get off of the leaderboard. And yeah, and the Journo tokens themselves are non-transferable. Like once they mint and go into the journalist's wallet, they can't really leave that wallet unless they burn them, or like right now we're leaving it open for like the owner of the contract to move those around, but they can't really be sold or speculated on.
Yes, I think the couple discussions that we were having in Discord the past couple weeks about this is well, I decided I wanted to make a lot more work for Keith. Threw out the idea that it would be cool to have like tokens that you could not only like give kudos to a journalist by sending them journal tokens, but like, you know, what if the token could somehow be customized to say like, you know, this journalist, I'm giving them journal tokens because they're great at investigative journalism, or they're great at storytelling, or data journalism. So you could have actually like the tokens could be even more customized. And I mean, I think that's it, probably down the road, because when I asked Keith to have that done by the town hall, like somehow he wasn't able to finish it. But,
Almost 5 minutes away. 5 minutes away.
the more the more the more like short-term thing that I think is exciting, if we get everything up and running that you were talking about, Keith, is it would be cool to at these conferences basically explain what you just explained about, you know, we have these tokens, you can go and you can buy them with Stripe right now to support us, and give them to your favorite journalist, and walk people through that, and then say, and now look under your seat, and we've just airdropped you a bunch of free journo tokens, so that you can play with that. And that'd be kind of a fun demonstration, I think, to do at these conferences.
Yeah, just get somebody to raise their hand and give us their Twitter handle, and then send them some journo tokens and show them how they appear on the leaderboard or whatever.
Yeah, I think it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Any other journo token thoughts?
It's just what's coming to me is like, this is actually almost like you're building a accredited, without the word accredited, body that actually recognizes great journalism. And it feels like that's just like coming out naturally by the values of the, you know, DAO, or the people, the members. But yeah, I mean, I can see that already, like, and visually I can see that.
Yeah, what's cool to me is it's becoming clear, like, so these tokens, like, we mint them, but we don't really control them or own them beyond that. And so, like, theoretically, somebody that we don't even know or approve or whatever can create their own leaderboard with like journo token holders, or like use that, like the journo token, to just like do whatever they think is relevant, like for that. So it's really just a signifier of like somebody actually paid, you know, paid money to like give this person more clout in this realm. And I think that's like a pretty strong signal of like, you know, support for that there's at least something there with that person and journalism,
Like peer-to-peer recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like the community validation rather than being validated through that, you know, architecture of the editor, so your boss approves you. This is more like community validation, which is definitely sticks to the Web3 ethos, which is really cool.
I mean, I could see like something like down the road, like if we ever had like a fund that was, you know, to support investigative journalism down the road, that you know, that could be tied to, you know, the journalists that are maybe higher up on the leaderboard. Maybe that, you know, boosts their standing in terms of like, you know, like a Gitcoin type system of awarding grant dollars or something like that.
And I think it kind of clarifies a censorship discussion as well, because so like the leaderboard, something that we came up with, like that's definitely like censorable, right? Like I can, as the developer of that leaderboard, I can decide like the way to filter it. Like I could create like a little like a top slot or whatever, where I just put whoever I want and I have control over that. But then if somebody doesn't like what I'm doing, they can just go and create their own leaderboard that they think is more accurate or, not filtered. And that kind of demonstrates the, and I can't do anything about that. Like I wrote the contract for the token and then did the website, but then, I can't, once it's out there, I can't stop anybody from doing what they want with it. So I think that kind of shows like the difference between like Web 2, there's this website which like surfaces the Web 3 data, but like I actually can't do anything to the Web 3 data itself.
I gotta step into the room for the other room for just a second. Keith, is there anything you want to update us about the voting app while I disappear for a minute?
Yeah, so I have been revisiting it this week, so I might be roping you all into like another test round. My hope is that we could do like every day pretend like it's a month of JournoDAO activity. And so like we pretend that like, we're allocating for the month's work for a day, and then I put in that distribution, those tokens are put up or minted and put up to claim. And then we all go through the process. And then the next day we treat it like the next month and the next month, and we see like the volume accrue, and we see like the delegations accrue, and we kind of get a feel for like how this, once this is like live, how we could expect it to like age, and kind of if there's any dynamics that we need to be aware of before that, and maybe account for. And does that make sense to people, or does anyone have any thoughts on the best way to test that? Okay, so I'm guessing like if we do that, like it's kind of I don't know what the time commitment is, maybe like a half an hour a day. But it would be nice to have like proposals along the way to like vote on, and then kind of get a feel for how voting power changes over time with like proposals coming in, and just kind of like simulate the activity, and then obviously also like catch bugs and just make it actually functional. But I think that's kind of the stage that we're at, where I'm adding some settings so you can, a DAO can choose like how many tokens do you start with, how many tokens are minted for each like distribution, and then how often, like what's your timeline for that distribution, like every week or every month, and just kind of making it more configurable, because I think we've talked about like 1 month 1,000 tokens, but other people might want other variables for that. And then also might want to do like proportional token mints, so like start with 1,000 and then do like 0.7% of total volume every month or whatever, so you get more of like a logarithmic instead of a linear distribution. Well, I'll pause there. Is that me? Am I getting too in the weeds here?
No, we reminds me, we had talked before we went on vacation about kind of using this opportunity of testing the voting app to individually reach out to everyone who's on the Discord, where I think there's dozens and dozens of people just like lurking and probably not checking our server, but to send everyone a DM and just say, we just want to see if you're still around and if you're still interested, and if so, we're going to start passing out tokens to start testing our governance system. Do you want to be involved, and do you want to receive tokens? Would that be a good thing to do, or would that kind of overwhelm the system at this early stage?
I think we should maybe do 1 or 2 more like internal rounds, just to make sure there's no showstoppers. And then I'm okay with people running into bugs. That's the whole reason for it. But I don't want it to just be like people can't even like do anything, like when John was demoing it on his podcast or whatever, and there's just like, well, you can imagine that it would do this. Like, if we can get past those things, that'd be awesome. I think they're gone, but you never know. Like, I'm the only one in there going through, like, I have my like track, and then as soon as somebody else comes in, they'll do something I've never done before and then find something new. So
I think there's a technical component to it that I wasn't like able, like there's like a gate keeps me from like just like, oh, okay, this isn't just a fast quick thing, I've got to sit down and really learn something. So I almost feel like it would have to be a session to like onboard people to like understand how to even receive it. Just because I think a while back you guys were testing, and I was like, okay, let me jump in, and then I'm like, oh shoot, I need about an hour right now because my brain isn't going to be able to figure this out. What is it?
Yeah,
Is this
yeah.
like it's because it's on another system, or what is that?
Well, yeah, it's a web app that's just kind of pretending to be Web3 right now, just by, nothing's on chain, but it's kind of simulating this token distribution, and then you claim the tokens through delegating, like, okay, if I don't vote on this thing, I want this person to vote for me. But yeah, I think probably doing a demo on it is a good idea. Maybe we can do like a recorded walkthrough this week or next
live
week
one,
or something. Yeah.
where we actually do it while you're there, so it
Yeah,
gets
yeah.
fun.
No, that'd be good. And one development is that I'm in developer DAO, and I'm not too active there, but they do these Friday sessions where they do a dev and tell, where people just kind of show off what they've been working on. And so I'm going to do one for the voting app this Friday, and depending on like the interest there, like ideally this is all going to be open sourcing. Anyone who's interested can help work on it. So if there's any developers there who are interested, or if developer DAO likes the model and they want to, help test it and all that stuff, that's potentially in the cards. Or I just like do it and people are like, all right, cool. And then it's just a nothing burger, but I'm hoping some sort of interest will come out of that. But
I
yeah.
know Michelle Backles from Developer DAO. I don't know where she is in the chain of things, but if I can lend any kind of like extra support to the back end of getting it pushed through or whatever.
Oh yeah, thanks. I'll probably bring that up in the dev and tell and just see what the group thinks is like the best. I like had this other project that I kind of donated to Developer DAO and just sent the repo over there, but it wasn't very like compelling, and it was kind of it was like rebase alerts, like get alerts on your phone every time like your token rebases. And like it was very like bull market thing that people were interested in. As soon as all the like ohm forks started crashing, then it became like really not fun. So like I know the process of like making a proposal and like championing like a project and all that stuff, but I just want to make sure there's interest there, and then hopefully, like, I'm totally open to that being something Developer DAO just like takes on and makes an open source thing.
Hey, Keith, did you want to say anything about the Ocean Protocol stuff? That, I mean, I know it's all Republic, but it seems cool and maybe tangentially relevant.
Yeah, definitely. Like, especially when we're talking about like Web3 storage of content and not being censorable, and also, maybe finding other revenue streams. Ocean Protocol is like a way for people to offer up their personal data to be like queried in a secure environment, and then get compensated for that query, like without actually sharing their data. And so I made a grant for Republic to like integrate with that, and got accepted with a few others for this round. They do them every month. And then initially it's like a $3,000 grant, but then like if that goes well, then you're eligible for like 15,000 and then 25,000. You kind of like build trust, and like the amounts keep going up. So I think it's definitely, there's a lot of use cases for JournoDAO with Ocean Protocol as far as like data management goes. So I think we should definitely look into maybe getting on the grant track with, if we kind of iron out what like one of those use cases or a set of use cases actually are for JournoDAO, we could that could be another initiative that could get some funding for sure.
I was poking around their grant site, their grant rubric or whatever, and I mean, it kind of seems like that could actually be one of those introductory grant proposals. Is just to say we're interested in doing a grant to do some research to figure out what the best use cases are for journalism to use this tech. Just kind of, I was going through some of the things that got grant money, and it actually seems like, I mean, they're giving away grant money basically just for like marketing for stuff. So I mean, it seems like that would have a decent chance of getting funded.
Yeah, I think that's right. As far as like, if we wanted to get more detailed, like, or specific, I was going to say, after this month and working on the integration, I'll have a lot more better ideas of like where those overlaps are and how we could make it more specific. But I think we could move on it like right now this month with just like an exploratory phase as well.
I also wanted to follow up on something Crystal mentioned at the top, was talking about our relationship with hold on one second, with Diamond DAO shifting into more of like an advisory position. I actually think there's like a whole lot of opportunity there in terms of, I mean, because we kind of keep having these conversations with people like, oh, we just kind of want to pick your brain as like media people and journalism people in Web3. So Crystal and I have been talking a little bit about. I think we could do more to basically promote our ability to do that, whether it's just through Twitter or putting up some blog posts or stuff on the website. Basically just saying like, if you're interested in advisory or consulting help, like let's start a conversation. That's been on my to-do list for a while, but I just wanted to throw that out there, as I think that's like an opportunity that's like kind of just sitting there that all we have to do is kind of grab it.
Yeah, if you want to or if anyone wants to put together like what maybe like a page would look like, I can definitely put it on the website. I think we've got a task for doing like a web form, but we could also just start with like a page and an email would be something I could do in under an hour. Like homebrewing a web form would take like a few hours, but or we could use a platform like Typeform or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I could start something in Ghost too, and if we could just use that, if that works, or if you wanted to port it over to a static web page, whatever, really.
And I can help with the copy on that too. And I've been brainstorming it. I brainstormed on a little bit this morning as well. It'd be good to have it in place before the conference in LA, because there's definitely going to be people that might even just need a phone call, like just a brainstorming session to help get whatever ideas or seeds that have been kind of percolating in the brain into something that's tangible and actionable, and they just need a conversation, and then that can evolve into something else as well.
I do caution you guys, education is a very expensive time sucker. So I would just throw in that consulting is like there's an education part of it, phase one, so that you don't end up in a situation where you're just educating people just to sell them into something, or not sell them, but like to work with them. I just feel like that's what's happened on several occasions. So if you can build in the phase one education part of it, it's educating the team or something, that would be like a huge part of the consultation. I don't know. Crystal, you know what I'm talking about. You've
Yeah, okay.
doing that.
Yeah, what I found is that, or at least what's been happening lately, it's more the protocols and the people that are already building in Web3 that want to build for journalists in mind that are needing that strategic advice, which eliminates the education component that you're talking about, Jennifer. But definitely, like for the other, like bringing the news people in, I think what would happen, and this is just kind of how, like if I could wave a magic wand, this is how it happened, is they would be in a couple, either spaces or a town hall, and it made sense and it already clicked. And then they're like, okay, I know enough. I need just strategic advice. Like I don't need education. I don't need the basics. Because a lot of journalists too, I think, are going to do that legwork on their own to a degree. And they might just need a filter, but strategic connections within, with all of the people in this community, we all have, decades of experience at this point. So I think it's that, strategic alignment that seems to be surfacing now, which is interesting.
Yeah, ONA might be, we might be surprised, but yeah, that would be one that there may need some education pieces.
Yeah. Go ahead, Keith.
I'll just say real quick to that point, if we do a web form or whatever it is, having like a track to get signups for, like, sign up here if you're just starting from scratch and you need like just a basic overview, and then we can kind of like every time there's like 5 people on that list or something, then we can start scheduling those meetings and just kind of try and differentiate between the people who like know what they're looking for and the people who are just kind of like show me what to do, like that sort of thing.
Yeah, like half of us were on the call right before this with the ONA, Online News Association contact, who keeps swearing that a lot of people are going to be really excited about Web3, and I hope that pans out. Although I get the sense it's going to be people that are excited about it, and then people that want nothing to do with it. So yeah, I think Jennifer's right. With that group, there could be somewhere like, yeah, you have a free consultation that is that turns into a seminar. One thing I will say is the media party, the Buenos Aires conference coming up later this month. The group that puts that on, they're called Hacks and Hackers. So that's actually a tech first organization. It's like the intersection of tech and media. But you can't hear me. Let's see. So I think we'll have some good sense. The first conference, I think they're going to be a lot more tech literate. So hopefully there'll be less of an education component. And that is actually what I was thinking, is it would be good to have something on the website to refer people to, a form or whatever. Because yeah, I'm anticipating that there's going to be at least a few requests to go deeper and maybe do some advisory stuff coming out of that.
Yeah, do you want to talk about the format a little bit more? I think you and I talked about like me participating remotely, and there might be like, I think the group is capped at 45 people.
Yeah. It's really funny because yeah, we just had the ONA call, and that's not for 6 weeks, and they're requiring a lot more preparation already than and nothing's 100% confirmed with the Argentina one yet, in terms of which sessions are definitely happening. I was kind of told unofficially that whatever you want to do will happen. But I haven't seen anyway. So there is 3 sessions and a hackathon. The shortest session is a lightning talk that's only 5 minutes. And what I pitched for that was to actually walk through really briefly like one component of the blockchain investigation stuff that we've been working on, which I thought would just be kind of a fun thing. Initially, the idea was to maybe be able to show off JournoDAO's Chainburst tool. I don't think that's actually going to be ready by then, which is okay. I could actually still work up a visualization using their tools, which I might do. And so that would just be a quick, like, this is how we found, information using these wallet addresses. That's 5 minutes. And then the 20-minute keynote. I think they're calling everything a keynote though. So there's like a whole lot of 20-minute talks. And so that would be just kind of along the lines of what we've talked about here and elsewhere, just kind of an introduction to Web3 and where it could take media and news. And then there is a 60 to 90-minute workshop. And that's what you're talking about, Keith, is where we could have, so that would be me in a room with no more than 45 people. And they are all expected to come with laptops ready and whatever software is needed, like loaded, and they're like, the expectation is we will walk them through physically doing things in the room. And so basically what I said is, come with at least MetaMask loaded on your computer. It'd be good to have Discord too, in case we want to walk through any of that. And so the idea there is just to do some really walk through like the absolute basics, starting with, introduction to wallets and MetaMask and doing some basic transactions. We might mess with sending tokens, bridges, and then kind of work up to actually like minting a story, like a story on Paragraph or Mirror. And so like the way that would look is everyone's in a room with laptops, I'm there, and then up on screen we could have a Zoom call. I'm presuming, this hasn't been 100% confirmed, but we can have a Zoom call going with whoever wants to be there. So like Keith and Crystal could be like walking us through the Mirror or Paragraph minting process while I'm like physically going around helping people at tables. And then on top of that, there's a hackathon the last day where they ask you to help with mentoring. I don't exactly know what that looks like yet. But that's pretty much everything that I know at this point. It seems a little more seat of the pants than the O&A one, which I think is significantly larger and more regimented.
So all 3 of those things potentially might happen.
It sounds like they are most likely happening, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So yeah,
I think that was a good overview. I was going to say Miles had a question that we could talk about if you're moving on.
Yeah, go for
it. Miles, do you want to chime in, or do you want me to summarize?
I can find my audio. Am I on audio?
Yep, that's good.
Okay, cool. I'm working on 3 computers at once right now.
Nice.
So, I'm unmuting on the wrong computer. I was just about to write, well, first I asked if there's some relationship between Founders NFT and tokens. I'm sure there be. And Keith answered in chat, not of yet, with little ideas surrounding that. And I was about to respond saying, maybe the NFT founders get issue tokens in some proportion to tokens minted otherwise.
So the founders would get tokens themselves, or they would be able to like send them to journalists. They would get like a, because that's kind of what I was thinking is like founders could get like a certain number of tokens that they could kind of distribute out to journalists without donating.
They have some influence.
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't be undue influence, but it shouldn't be zero.
Mm-hmm.
And we couldn't determine how many tokens they should get. Maybe it's a ratio. And as more tokens are issued, based on whatever policies JournoDAO comes up with, well, the promise to the founders was they'll continue to get stuff whatever's offered. So there's a way of saying, okay, you're going to continue to get a flow of tokens.
Mm-hmm. No, I like that idea. Crystal, what do you think? Or
A
anyone else?
little. I was just wondering, so if the founders get the tokens, though, aren't the tokens just for journalists? Are we saying that the founders then have the ability to distribute those tokens to journalists? Or are they keeping them in their wallets as a sign of something? Because that's two different things, right?
However, tokens have value.
Mm.
Tokens, I think, have value as being influential about the credibility of journalists. So it gives the founders some right to express their opinions about what journalism and journalists should receive spotlight, should receive credentialing.
Yeah, so they wouldn't be in the founders' wallets, but they would be able to like send them out, or else you could just like buy your way onto the leaderboard, or it would kind of dilute the significance of the token itself, but you'd
The
get,
idea is to not give them so much weight that it dilutes journalism, but it
Mhm.
maybe gives them a little more say than just any one token. 'Cause
yeah,
the
I think
founders-
giving them like a monthly allotment would kind of achieve that.
We could also we could put a governor on how many they can apply at any one time, or how many they can give to any one journalist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe I'll come up with a proposal in the forum, just throw out some like rough ideas or numbers, and you can kind of help me with that in the comments or whatever if you want.
The thing I was noticing was the promise to founders is you get some of everything we do.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing about tokens, but I'm not hearing how the founders are going to get to participate. I just wanted to be consistent.
No, totally. Yeah. I think that's totally relevant. It had crossed my mind, but it just wasn't I hadn't articulated it, I don't think.
Could even be that there's some restriction about how founders can distribute their tokens, and that they can only be amplifiers. Maybe they can only be applied once a journalist has hit a certain minimum. That kind of thing.
That'd be interesting. Yeah.
Keith, can you put something in the smart contract that says that if the tokens aren't distributed by the founder within like 60 days, then they're burned? So they have to leave the founder's wallet and then.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So part
Use
of
it or
this,
lose it. Use it or lose it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I
That
think
way they can't sit there and accumulate all these tokens and then inadvertently end up in the journalist mix. They have to distribute them to journalists, and that would also force them to engage in consuming journalism.
Yeah, I think part of this exploration will be like what should and could be on chain versus just like part of an application that like uses Journo tokens in the contract. So I think it's definitely possible to do that on chain. I think we would probably want to fake it to make it on like the just doing it like in code first, like on a web server, but then yeah, because what we're kind of experiencing, which I didn't realize until I started working more on chain, is you can do everything on chain, but then there's actually like real cost to that, just like, you know, putting your photography on chain or whatever, like you have to pay gas. So the more complex these transactions and the more logic you put into these smart contracts, the more resources you actually have to have from like JournoDAO in this case to like pay all those transaction fees. So you gotta kind of like it's like, well, we can do with this stuff off chain and then, you know, hash it and put it on chain, but there's like definitely an art and a science to how that all plays out. So it's like, yeah, that's possible, whether it's practical and we would be able to like pay the costs for that like indefinitely, I don't know. But then also like gas fees, we're all seeing like all the scaling happening, so it's a temporary problem. So like gas fees are coming down. new L2s are coming on, so it's like we're using optimism right now, and so that's pretty reasonable, and we'll probably get even more reasonable going forward. So that's why I'm saying like maybe temporarily we could do this stuff on the server, and then once gas fees are like kind of nominal, then you can like start cramming that logic into the smart contract. Eric, you still there? Did you have a?
I'm here. Yeah, I'd like to see like a forum post around that. And
Okay.
I think that's Miles brings up a good point with regard to the founders in particular. One other thing I was wondering if anyone had thoughts about is two other events coming up that are during the same week, September 6th through the 9th, MCon in Denver. And then at the same time, there's the Kiev Tech Summit that's going to be virtual, that like Ukraine DAO and Unchained Fund and some a whole lot of other Web3 orgs are involved in. And just curious if like we wanted to think about participating in either of those in any way. I think Crystal's going to go to MCon. It's not looking like I can make it. I mean, the Kiev Tech Summit, I haven't thought about it in any real detail, like how we might want to contribute, but it might be worth thinking about. Any thoughts?
I'm gonna try and make it to MCon in person, and that probably excludes me from the Kiev thing. I'm not quite sure like how I would engage with that one anyway. So I think, yeah, I'm gonna book my tickets to MCon as soon as I can.
Where's the
Yeah, I'm
key-
gonna.
Sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. It's virtual, right?
Which one?
The tech summit. I'm just trying to find it.
There's not much. There's a Telegram group.
Okay.
Let me see if I can invite you.
That's okay. I don't think I'm gonna have. I don't think I'm gonna be involved in that. But you can invite me for sure. I just don't want you to like go out of your way. It's not useful. Um, Obviously, you guys don't talk a lot about the DAO stuff, but your like knowledge is so it's like so up there for DAOs. So I only see like this being such an important play in MCon, you know, just to really get in there with the other DAOs. I mean, it's kind of like founders unite and learn from each other and then share ideas. That to me seems like a natural
Yeah, I'm excited about MCon. And I'll be there for most of it. There's a couple little spots where I'll have to run the class. But there's also like the Unlock Protocol team. I know the founder's going to be there and a few others. I think there's some other folks that are going to wander in, and there'll be a lot of side stuff happening. So yeah, I think it's going to be great for connections, for all of it. Yeah, should be cool. And just to see what everybody's working on and like the collaborations that come from that type of an event. Be a lot of fun.
Yeah, if there's something that you can't attend, Crystal, that you think would it be important for us to have a presence at, then like right now I'm, not committed to anything, so I can schedule around that.
You should talk to Humpty while you're there at MCon. He's going to be walking around interviewing people about why they're there and what their projects are and stuff like that. And it'd be a good chance for JournoDAO to be on Crypto Sapiens.
Cool. We'll definitely do that. I'm heading to next week. There's a blockchain Boulder meetup, and I think a couple of the folks that run MCon are run that too. So I'm just going to hop in there and like just throw us all over the place. So I'll hopefully get the scoop on what's going on. You're muted, Jennifer.
On Zoom. Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. I just really quickly wanted to ask you guys for ONA. There is, I'm going to call the library today just to kind of see if we can. I was kind of thinking maybe just a meetup would be a good idea. That way there's no responsibility to host, to pay for drinks, to create a bunch of invites, but actually just to have a meetup at the library bar, either on a Saturday, which is, I think it starts on a Friday. But if you just give it one day of the conference, you'll have enough people that you've talked to that you can start to gather a crowd. And then the following day could be a little meetup, either like right after or, happy hour or before. Or I was thinking if you're coming into LA a little earlier, you could go to Crypto Mondays in Venice on Monday and then ride that week out, talk about, doing a meetup maybe on that, like the day before the conference. So I was thinking meetup is a really like low barrier to entry, and it takes us off the hook for like having to prepare all this other stuff. What are any thoughts around that? Like when are you guys coming in? Do you want to just do a meetup?
I think that's a great idea. When we did for ETH Denver, Unlock did a big thing, and it was such a production. It took a lot of people to pull that off. It was a bigger scale, but still, it was a lot. So I think that's
these early
great.
days. It's like we're spread thin, time and money wise, and at the moment, it's just like really great to just call it a meetup, and then that way it's like we don't have the responsibility, but at least we bring people together for one point of contact at some point. So I guess before the conference could be a nice way, as long as we socialize the idea at Crypto Mondays or another couple of these events that are happening that week, or we do it the second day of the conference so that we have time to socialize it and then get people either to our talks or from our talks, bring them to us after. I think that's the only way. So that's my thought. I'll just put it in a recommendation. You guys can like say yes or no. I'll call a couple places and that'll be that. I think that's the best way. I mean, I'm not trying to isolate everyone from contributing ideas, but I don't know that you really want to spend your time on this kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I'm excited about it, and could and want to help, but that sounds practical, because then my thought is it takes it from like having to like reserve an actual space and like pay money and do all that stuff to like maybe just calling a place and say like, hey, we're probably gonna have like a group of 15 people or something like that, and just give them a heads up so we don't swarm them, but we don't actually have to like reserve anything, or book anything.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, yeah. So I guess I'll just socialize when that timing would be better, and then just kind of just put it down as like a happening thing. Can even create a meetup in Meetup or Eventbrite.
So I'm looking at the conference schedule, and they haven't told us like what day we'll be presenting, but I'm pretty sure it's going to either be Thursday or Friday. And one thing, so on third, and if it's on, so my thought is like, I think it would be good. The one thing I think would be important would be to do it after, so that it comes after our presentation, so that we can basically promote the meetup during our presentation.
Okay.
And
Yeah, that makes sense.
and to say like, like if you have more questions, you want to learn more, meet us at the library. So one thing I'm seeing is that Thursday, which is like I said, I think we would either be Thursday or Friday, and Thursday night is it's a welcome reception in the evening, so you probably don't want to conflict with that. So I'm thinking like Friday,
Yeah, why not?
because they don't have anything scheduled like for that Friday evening that we would be up against.
Yeah, plus everyone can meet up and then go wherever together if there is something. Okay.
I think we should have some, or we should use some DAO funds to like make some printable stuff though, like some sort of signage, and then we can put like, I mean, to Miles' point, we could put, sponsored by like Foucher or Unlock Protocol or whatever, Julian, and
Yeah, like a PO-up.
yeah.
Just do a PO-up.
Well, we could do that too, but I mean, like, something at the meetup that actually has our branding and, and it gives some space to like the founders.
Maybe you can create it so that it can just be like repurposed for every single thing that you guys are going to be going to. And then that way we can just change the date and like have a PO-up also. So it's like, this is our first PO-up, this is our second, whatever. Maybe they can, we can track them that way. Okay, well, that sounds good. I'm going to call them today.
And two of our founders are going to be at MCon, I think. Like, I know Julian will be there, and I'm pretty sure Matt's going to be there. So, Keith, I don't know if you want to use some treasury funds to take them out to dinner or something, because we did kind of say that we buy them a drink. So, just planting that seed.
Yeah, I mean, it like if there were a space where there was like there could at least be like a space in the corner where like somebody could like, get everyone's attention to do the Foucher pitch or whatever, like that would be ideal. Or the Factland pitch as well.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's what Evan would want to promote. Yeah, or at least just get our brains turning on that. Like, I think we should have, printables, like where should we get those? Like, what are the assets we need? That sort of thing going. And then I think, and then talking to the founders, just like what would they like to promote, and, what kind of space we can offer them.
And I think too, since it's, oh, sorry, go ahead, Nick. Or Nick.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, does anybody here know of a well-funded Web3 project in journalism other than this one? Is what I'm noticing is that I've had conversations a lot around like coordinating events and stuff, and I think I'm noticing that like maybe we should get someone to give us more money so that we can do more. Because I think that's going to be a limiting factor on some of the stuff that we'd like to do. And once you have a network of strategic partnerships established and you want to actually do something with it, the next problem is like, how do you coordinate and operate and implement stuff. And that usually comes down to how much money you're working with and what people's bandwidth is that they're doing basically as free labor.
I would go to the protocols because they're the only ones that have money, and they don't even have that much money. But I mean, they do, but
I have a shitload.
yeah, I know, but like they have like literally like they'll have like some venture capitalist firm from like Asia Pac come in and sponsor their whole housing, you know, like near protocol won't even pay for it. So yeah, so, but they're going to be the ones, the protocols are going to be the most they're going to have the most money, I think, to spend.
I think, and that's kind of why I chose optimism as well. Is like I think that would be, you know, we're launching our Journo token on the platform, and my only thing is I don't know how proactive they are. They've kind of positioned themselves as like retroactive funder of public goods. So I think, you know, doing our Journo token on there might get us like an airdrop in the future. But as far as like actually going out, I don't know if they have a team or something that is like sponsoring places or events. They probably do. I haven't looked.
I think for ETH Denver, for something we have a longer run on, we could do a collab, like Nick's saying, like with Fotra or something like that. Like their funding should be in place a little bit later, and then there, you know, there could be more of a strategic, you know, collaboration with something like Fotra or even Unlock. I know they last year when we did ETH Denver, we did it with Mintgate because they were working on some stuff together. So
I just found the Unlock grant program.
yeah, I didn't tell you about that. Yeah, so the Unlock grant program, most of that's going to be to come up with like a new integration with the protocol. Every month, I think Amber's, if she's still on the team, she does the selection process, and then you know, they pretty much grant the grants to most of the applications that are put out there. They also do retroactive funding. So if you've done an implement,
oh please go
ahead. So if you've done an implementation with their stuff and you've already done it and produced it, then you can get proposed, and then the DAO will vote on projects to get retroactive funding from Unlock.
I'm still interested in the Edgeware and Polkadot ecosystem as well. I think that conversation has moved forward slowly, and I'd like to push it forward because I think there's something there for the long term. I'm like particularly interested in their way of doing things, and I think that yeah, I think it's worth continuing to push that ball forward too.
I think that's going to be much more productive and in alignment than with an Unlock grant. Unlock's just going to be more of a, you know, technical implementation of a one-time thing. I think the Edgeware thing's fascinating. It's such a high level conceptual thing. And it sounds like the grants from the call that I was on in June, like that we were on, it sounds pretty open. Like a lot of flexibility as far as research and concept and all that.
And then another source of money that we've talked about, you know, because all the protocol grant money is great, but obviously they're basically giving it to you to invest in the protocol, which is only going to work if we're really aligned with that protocol. But to do, I mean, we're a source of money to like basically do the stuff that I think we're more animated by, which is stuff that is, you know, like more public goods oriented for the sake of making journalism better. Like I think that's going to be grant funding from places like the Knight Foundation that you've brought up before, Crystal, which is, I think in the long term, you know, right now we're pushing forward the LLC or actually the C Corp paperwork. And so that'll give us like a legal entity. But I think long term, even though it takes a little bit more effort and is a little more onerous, I think having a sister 501c3 is going to be worthwhile in the long run to be able to apply for those grant funds that they'll come with more freedom, I think. They also come with a lot of paperwork, but I mean, that's kind of what I've been envisioning long term. Is there's the for-profit, whether or not it ends up being a public benefit corporation or just a C corp. There's that, and then there's in parallel like a nonprofit that can apply for grants.
Nick, did you have anything particular in mind or any suggestions?
I mean, what comes to mind is that Web3 is a very inefficient space with money, and I don't think that's just going to be true in the bull market phase. I think it's going to be true in the bear market phase as well. And the way that most companies break down their expenditures is that they have grants that are focused on drawing in developers and grants that are focused on drawing in good PR. So exchanges do this by doing like token amounts of their, like a 1% allocation of their total profits goes to like a charity foundation portfolio or something. If you get the paperwork that gets JournoDAO a nonprofit status, and you're able to funnel money from companies like those that I'm mentioning into a nonprofit as a PR move for them and as a way to fund the treasury for JournoDAO, I think that's a really strong idea, because money is kind of a missing piece to investigative journalism, and it is a public good that everybody recognizes pretty easily. And I think it would be an easy sell to anybody that you're trying to get interested in the idea of doing more journalism stuff in Web3. And then the Web3 is kind of not the hook, but the caveat is that you have to learn how the space works in order to like work within it. But that's kind of an innovation that I see that doesn't, as far as I know, exist yet. You have all these grant programs, but they're mostly focusing on kind of silly startup ideas, a lot of them, and a lot of them are just to attract developers. But I'm not as familiar with like stuff that's come out in the last 6 months. So if somebody has something interesting to talk about.
Before we were introduced, Nick, we applied for a pretty big chunk of money from the FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried's future fund thing, and it was interesting. It was super open-ended. You didn't have to be a 501c3. They were kind of willing to give it to anybody, it seemed. And we didn't get a grant, but I think we're significantly further along now than we were then. So, I mean, yeah, any things like that are out there that you come across.
I have a list.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, so that took a fair amount of work putting together. We had to put together a budget and everything for the FTX grant, and I still have all of that, so it could be pretty easily repurposed for other programs like that. Yeah, send it over.
I'll send a couple of things. I've got a couple of things I can repurpose and send over. Yeah, and on the education point that you guys were making earlier, I might mention that I think I'm going to be doing a couple of talks at PubDAO to talk about the on-chain analytics stuff and journalism. If you guys have input on how I can structure that talk to like make it stronger for that particular audience, I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, for sure. We should probably sync up on that, because I'm going to be trying to figure out what to do in Argentina. And I was thinking would either have something like the easy one to do is to just like run through in 5 minutes, like run through how you can identify the guy that ended up with Seth Green's Bored Ape. I mean, that's an easy one for a more general audience like I'll be talking to. But yeah, we should run through ideas for that, because I'll be needing to do the same thing.
Yeah, if you get it for your talk, then if you share that with everybody else, you can kind of start building like a base of content. You have a couple of classic journalism problems you can pull out of the hat to talk about based on whatever conference someone's doing.
For sure. Hey, did we lose Ryan? Oh, we lost Ryan. I was gonna ask Ryan to talk about the Twitter Spaces for tomorrow with the DeSci World folks. And shoot, I should have got to that before he had to drop, because I know they were hoping that I'm trying to pull up the message from him. So yeah, we have Twitter Spaces at during our normal slot tomorrow with the folks from DeSci World, and they were hoping to kind of, after the space is over, to kind of move the party to their Discord server. So if people have that bandwidth and availability to continue the conversation tomorrow, just FYI, that was kind of the plan. Let me see specifically what Ryan had said the plan was. So for the structure of the space tomorrow, we'll be spending 10 minutes or so explaining. They'll be spending 10 minutes or so explaining what DeSci is and what the DeSci World is trying to do, and then pass it off to us to talk about JournoDAO's mission and goals, and then basically move into a discussion about the relationship between science and journalism, and a Q&A if there is time. And then, if the conversation is still going, move it into the DeSci World Discord server. So FYI, that is the plan for tomorrow. And I am seeing that I think the Twitter, it looks like the Twitter thing that's been going around has the wrong time on it. 3E, yeah, okay. All right, well, the Twitter graphic has a different time than the text in the Twitter thing. All right, so I will point that out. But it is 11 a.m. Pacific tomorrow.
So that's noon my time, right? Because time zones in me, it's just not happening.
Right.
Okay.
And
I'll write
that just left a terrible taste in your mouth saying Pacific there, Eric.
Yeah, the cocky time zone, the time zone that thinks it's better than all the rest. Cool. So, gotta get that figured out. So one other thing just to throw out there, and something that I've been kind of kicking around is, I think at some point it would be good to put more of these things that we're talking about doing, like minting, writing NFTs, and using Web3 technology for news content, to put that into practice, and as the phrase goes, eat our own dog food a little bit. So I've just been kind of kicking around in the back of my head, like the idea of basically starting up our first JournoDAO media outlet or news publication. I mean, we have the blog for updates about what's going on around the DAO, but I was thinking something along the lines of putting together, it could be structured as like in the way that Friends with Benefits does it, where they basically structure their publication like a quarterly journal. And so I was assuming we could put together something around like the future of media. So it would be Web3 stuff, but brand it the future of media. So if you're not a Web3 savvy person, you're just like a journalist who's interested in that, we could also bring in that more like O&A type crowd. And we could put out some bounties, get a few journalists to write a few articles, do a few interviews, and so almost like just a digital zine that we could put out. in a few months, say, as and we can mint NFTs off of it, and do all the things. But I just kind of wanted to put that out there to start the discussion and start the wheels turning on that, as everyone comes to us assuming that what we do is published journalism when that's not really what we do, but there's no reason that we can't. So yeah, I'll pause on any reaction to that idea.
I know we've tossed around the idea of some kind of, show or just, a little comedy rundown, but maybe not that. Maybe have a restream session with 6 people on, say, and then each week that person has 3 minutes to do a quick rundown of a highlight of the week of some kind of headline news item. And they get to pick that headline news item of their choice, of course, with consensus agreement that that's okay too. But, and then it just rotates around. It's a little 15-minute program, intro, outro, 3 minutes apiece, bam. And you have a segment, and, you have a weekly news segment like that. And like the people on there could rotate. If they're not available for that week, you could have somebody else on, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a cool idea. I like the zine idea too. I think it does seem like in general we need to, I don't know, have like a playbook for content, or like some sort of, I don't know, not just something that we talk about and brainstorm, but like something that we actually do. Like,
So what do you mean by zine? Because from what I gather from zine, it's like I've created zines myself, and we chop up stuff collage style, or we just get a bunch of people to write different stuff, or just chop up photos and mash them together and Xerox copy them together. What would a digital zine look like?
I guess the reason I use the term zine is actually more to indicate that it could be a one-off thing, and it could be more evergreen. So like when you like, I like the idea of the podcast type thing that you're talking about, with the exception of like setting the expectation that it might be weekly, where like I don't know that we have the bandwidth to like commit to like something that is released on a regular schedule. So like when I say zine, like that's basically what I'm saying, is like putting something out there, and we're putting it out as like a one-off, just to kind of see what the response and the reaction is, and as an experiment, to see how it goes, rather than like spinning up a new blog or whatever that publishes daily or weekly with a podcast. Like that's a whole new commitment in our lives that I actually.
True. Yeah. So then maybe just start off with just the topic of what Web3 journalism is, and just, like this, everybody just take turns with a time limit, and then just publish it and see what happens. And then maybe if it's successful, pick another topic, NFTs. Yeah.
Right.
And then, just whenever it's convenient for everybody, instead of some kind of set schedule. Yeah. Another
like to play
topic, DeFi. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say I'd like to play too with the Foucher unlock integration. I think it's going to be live in the next week or two, so a few months out would be good because there's going to be bugs. And it'd be interesting to figure out a way, and it might have to have, this might actually be something for an unlock grant, is to have someone build a collaborative type platform. So the way they did the headline tweak for Foucher is that it's pulling the information in from the mobile. So, and it's pulling it into the web platform. So it's pulling it into a post automatically that goes into draft, and then you can go publish it later. Or you can add your content into it. So you can record the content on the mobile, kick it into the web platform. So if we have a bunch of us that are doing this, it'd be interesting to see if we could all just somehow figure out how to pull it into this one publication that is a JournoDAO thing. And it makes sense in my brain. I realize that those words didn't come out properly, but that'd be fun to play with. And that would be actually a really cool thing to submit for an unlock grant if somebody could build it. So
What's the-
basically Evan knows how to build it because he just built it for Focher.
What's the unlock tool? I mean, the unlock publishing tool system called again?
Headline.
Headline. Okay.
So
And-
Raid Guild built it because they wanted a proof of concept. And then once they built it, nobody really used it. Or nobody was really playing with it too much. So it was just kind of sitting there. So when Focher came in, they were like, just fork it, white label it, make it yours. So that's what they did. So we could do the same thing. I mean, it's open source. But then we could also do it under the grant program, which would be really cool because then it has the exposure. It also has the tech support. And we just have to find somebody, either Evan, I mean, he's going to be really busy with Focher, or somebody like him that can do it. And he did it in 6 days, which is shocking. But to build exactly what we've been talking about for the last few months, a way to have, ENS names that can contribute into a protocol that then is a publication.
And so, okay, I'm trying to visualize this. So is it like Focher content can be like embedded in a headline page or something like that?
Yeah. So let me see. You have your Twitter open?
Yeah.
Go to my profile, scroll down, past my rage tweeting. I think it's like the third or fourth down. I retweeted Matt's post. And if you click on that, there's a little video that shows you, it's very simple. And it's actually what I like about it. Shows you how it works. Basically, it's just got the Focher app icon in where you publish. And then once in what you've documented through Focher.
Yeah, I like where this is going. I like the collaborative part, but were you thinking? So Eric, when you first started saying like the zine idea, I pictured like I don't know, coming up with like a budget, and we're gonna have like three stories, and then we'll have like an art budget and like a writer budget, and we'll just kind of use DAO funds to produce this like high quality thing, and we'll like actually bring people into JournoDAO, like outsiders that we'll like hire to do these stories. And that's not necessarily different than what Crystal you're suggesting, but I'm wondering, A, is that what you're thinking, Eric? And B, if it is, then how do we do that like in a more decentralized, like collaborative way?
I think through bounties, not to speak for Eric, but if you did it through bounties and
yeah.
then had that ENS address, that's like if you do it through DWork, then the person would submit their ENS, and then this type of a protocol could, pull the content in from that ENS when it's published, and then we'd have a custom layout that would be our JournoDAO publication built on that.
Yeah, that's even more detailed than anything I had thought of. So yeah.
I don't know why my brain went there, but I guess vacation suits me sometimes. But yeah, that kind of was like what popped into my mind when you were describing that.
And so with the bounties, do we you like choose one submission and then pay the bounty for that? Or
So what we do over at All for Climate is we use DWork. We put out like we did this for the GR14 grant rounds. So there were 5 or 6 different projects that they wanted to highlight. So there were guidelines as to what was required for the article. And then somebody could click to put their name in for that bounty, and then the editor would have to accept it, and then just to make sure they're a real person, because it was an open community, so they had a lot of bots. So then they would assign it to them through DWork, and then once it's submitted and published, then the editor just clicked it and said, yep. And then once a month, they would distribute the bounties to everybody that in DWork that had everything approved. It was a pretty seamless, easy to use system, really. It's really basic. I liked it.
So you could use that for people to basically, pitch. I mean, because the analogous situation is in Web 2 is just freelancers pitching story ideas. And so like I'm assuming that would work that could work in the same way.
Yeah, you just have a pitch bucket or something. Throw your pitch in here and then somebody approves it. Or, the community can vote on, here's 10 stories that want to be produced. We've got X amount of dollars. It's $1,000 budget.
Yeah.
Here's the bounty for each one. Each one that gets approved gets the bounty once it's published.
It'd be fun to kind of experiment with what that more decentralized editorial selection process looks like.
Yeah, because we can make a hot mess with that. Because if we're going to be telling people they need to do this, we need to be able to have that proof of concept ourselves and have, kick the dust off of it. Because I've done it some with All for Climate, but it wasn't really journalists. It was more promotional articles.
So yes, Keith, I'm willing to test the voting app as much as possible over the next week to get editorial voting tokens.
All right. Yeah, that's cool. So it sounds like we should all get on D-work and just start doing the next thing and the next thing and the next thing until something happens.
How do we feel about clarity? Are we I never quite gave it the time I feel like it deserved or needed, but like D-work and clarity are kind of competitors, aren't they?
Yeah, we're using both at All for Climate to experiment with the same thing. I don't know, like I liked the way D-work, it was just very simple for this one specific thing. I think if you're doing the whole thing, clarity probably is better. I haven't gone through their token allocation bounty process yet. So I can't speak to that. But as far as like managing the flow of publishing like this, clarity is probably better. But D-work, we did a combination of D-work and Discord. So that's kind of how they synced up really nice. So when somebody accepted a bounty in Discord, in D-work, then it automatically made a thread in Discord. So then the person that accepted it and the person in charge of it had this thread that they go back and forth on, which I actually thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, let's do it.
And okay, John just sent over Charmverse, which I've heard of. And is that like also similar to D-work, or is it something different?
I've just started poking around with it this morning. It looks really interesting. It looks pretty comprehensive, including bounties that D-work does, but pretty much just a overall platform for DAOs, taking care of a lot of different functions. So I don't know. I'm going to be digging in further. I just came across it this morning and just figured I'd post it in there for you guys to look at. So.
Who is, I feel like we know is this its own DAO? I feel like we know who's behind this because I've come across this several times.
I've been looking at a lot of DAO tooling lately. Orca protocol is another one for creating pods as well. That's really fascinating.
If we do know who's behind this, it might be cool to get some funding, like a grant to actually do proof of concept of what we're talking about, because they only have 1,000 followers. So they probably want someone to rip it apart, take it out for a spin.
John, did they do something at DAO Denver? Is that why?
Charmverse?
Yeah.
I don't recall that. I only
No?
first heard of it just like last week, and then I finally decided to take a look at it this morning. So. But Frog Monkey is behind Orca protocol.
Frog Monkey, that's the best name.
Yeah. He's one of the OGs of the Bankless DAO, and basically started all the operations at first and the governance in there, and then he went off and did some other things, and I think he's one of the main guys behind Orca protocol now.
Interesting.
I mean, it's pretty time consuming, but ideally we would just try and do this on, all 3 platforms and then see how each one handles it instead of just kind of arbitrarily deciding. But I'm game for it, but I don't know if everyone is. Like, try and do it on Clarity, try and do it on DWork, try and do it on Charmverse, and then just see.
I would say that I hear the most positive things about DWork out of all of those. Like I probably have the best impression of that one. Although the folks at Clarity keep reaching out to me for feedback and to do like a walkthrough and get help, and I just never make the time for it, which I kind of feel like maybe they deserve that. I don't know.
If you
I
wanna
use
send-
DWork almost daily, so it's,
Yeah.
it's real easy to pick up. I just hit the ground running with it.
Because it's basically like Web3 Trello, right?
Yeah, seems to be.
Yeah.
We're using it at that impact DAO research project too. And that's turned into a pretty big project. So I know they've been able to use it seamlessly to keep that thing running.
Eric, if you want to send the Clarity people over to me, I wouldn't mind hopping on with them.
Okay. Yeah. It's Karen. She's actually in our. She's been on
Oh.
one of the town halls.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I'll send that over. Wow, we actually made it through like everything that I had set out to talk about today, which like, no, except for a network state for journalists. So you're gonna have to actually read it, Keith, and jump into the. Well, you already responded in Discord, but we'll have to keep that going. I feel like I could actually
read it. I'm just gonna barter in the ideas. If somebody tells me I'm wrong.
Like I kept watching that thread today. I'm like, I could spend the entire day discussing this, but I'm going to wait until I actually read the whole thing to be like have a slightly more informed opinion, hopefully.
Yeah, I've been trying to, I started reading it a few times. I just need to like sit down with a coffee and go there, like get back in academic brain mode. Cause that just hits all the, it just makes me excited. All the nerdy shit, the political science, the blockchain. It's like, ooh, let's go to all the places. So.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit on it, Keith. It's like some of my resistance is like just around like the language and the word choice, and also like I'm pretty sure Balaji and I have like a couple like fundamental ideological differences. As I think Crystal probably also senses.
Yes, yes.
But like 90% of it, I'm like, yeah, this is great. Like the vision and like the means to get there like all makes sense. But his like ultimate, like where his roadmap ends is like, well, that's not actually where I thought I was going. But like 90% of it, I think I'm on board with. See, that there I would just went and spouted a halfway uninformed opinion after I said I wouldn't. So.
I mean, I think you've thought about it enough to comment on it. I mean, it's a first take is valid, and then your take after reading it, how that compares to your impressions before, I think is good. All right, looks like Nick's hopping off. See you, Nick.
Hi,
Thanks
Nick.
for the ideas.
Well, and I will say like so I've heard like 2 podcasts with him now, and like listening to podcasts, I'm like, yeah, I like almost all of this, but I feel like he's not coming from the same place. And then like once I read the first chapter, and the first chapter is really just you get a summary of the whole thing, so you get the whole thing in without detail. So like after actually going through the first chapter, I'm like, okay, like my suspicions were correct, and I'm actually a little more disturbed than I thought I would be. But maybe when he gets into the details, he'll convince me. We'll see.
Well, what's What's upsetting about it?
I think, like I said, the end point for him seems to be playing out what I think is his libertarian fantasy world. And there's a funny thing between people who are like more libertarian oriented and more progressive oriented. And these days I'm floating between those two poles. But it's like a progressive can follow a libertarian like on a lot of things. You can go like pretty far down that road, but the ultimate destination is not the same. And like I kind of feel like he's leading us to like I said, this world of total liberty and independence. And I don't see the community aspect of what I think we're building and like what I'm actually interested in fostering. Like that doesn't seem to be as much of a priority. Like I know it is all about like digital nations and digital communities, but I don't really understand how a network archipelago makes sure that everyone in that archipelago has clean drinking water, and that these other kinds of things that like are like fundamental to life and that his structure can't solve or provide, I don't think.
And
Like-
that's where that, like you just described, that deviation of progressive and libertarianism, because I do feel the same way. Like I walk down that rabbit hole really deeply, but then you get to the human rights aspect, and that's where that split happens. Because from the libertarian perspective, the human rights aren't baked in, you're on your own. And I mean, I ain't trying to live in Lord of the Flies, So
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, is it just public goods, shared resources, that where it starts to break down human rights, kind of like raising the floor for society at large, rather than just, if you fall down, that's your fault, and we don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it, but it's also the disconnecting, like just assuming that an online nation, like a primarily online nation, can provide everything that's needed. Like it's just like I just feel like you don't have to take it this extra step to creating a nation and like subverting like this like largest like unit of organization that we have, because like I just don't, I think it breaks down, and yeah, I guess I'm agreeing with what you're saying. But that's why I go along with him like 90% of the way. I'm like, okay, this is like a way to create like communities, and to like even like restructure and rebuild much of society in like a whole new way. But like there's still like we still have to interact with like the legacy stuff, because the legacy stuff is providing services that only it can provide right now, or at least that Web3 isn't going to solve, just like the basic IRL needs that we have. At least I haven't seen the solution yet. But
I'm fascinated to dive deeper into it from the perspective of when nation states collapse, because that's what I studied at UNC, was that security demographics and the failure of the state. So I'm curious to read it from that lens, because you're right, this concept can't provide a lot of the things that we need from a nation to survive as a community. But what happens when the nation disappears completely or collapses into complete chaos? Can something like a network state surface within it to compensate until, like if this had been in place in Venezuela a few years ago, would that have helped compensate for the complete collapse of their structures, at least given some sort of nugget of, here's a way to find an alternative economic that you can use to buy your bread? while the state figures out what the fuck it's going to be the next time it builds itself back up.
I mean, my sense is it makes it worse because it
Mm.
like further exacerbates like the haves and have-nots. Like if you're like, you know, online and literate in all this stuff, yeah, you'll be better off when the network state fills in for the collapsed nation state, but everyone else is just fucked. Which is why like, and that's kind of why like I told Keith and DM, like I actually think we could build a better model because like as journalists, like we're more familiar with the interface between, you know, the IRL only world and the digital world. And like, I mean, that's kind of what I would be interested in setting up is like, okay, you have this network state or a technocracy that is like running everything behind the scenes, but you have to have this interface behind, like, to interact with the rest of the world that you're never going to get. And this is where I think Balaji and other people like are a little disconnected from reality. Like you're never going to get 100% adoption. You never are. Like there's always going to be people left behind. There's still people who aren't online and who don't, like I can take you to a place not far from here where people don't have access to like phones or electricity or regular running water on the Navajo reservation. Like you're just never going to get 100% adoption, and those people are going to be left behind. So like what I'm interested in, like hope that we're building is like we're building up these tools and we're like plugging into the larger network, but we also have to build the interface where like say you have like the like community token idea we've kicked around, like okay, that's great. Like we have like a community token that's actually adopted, and like you have a town where everyone is using city token. That only works if part of that system is basically a bridge between the legacy system and this new system. Like you've got to be able to go out to the people who are like, oh, you're still using dollars? Okay, well that's fine. While we bring you along, like we have this bridge where, okay, your dollars get converted into a city token and back and forth. And maybe those people don't even have to understand that they are actually in a crypto-based economy. And like, I don't think that part has been baked into this idea.
It probably won't because it's libertarian, but I think that's where the Impact DAO surfaces in the middle of what you just described. Like the Impact DAO movement is what could, in some degree, help compensate for what you just described. Like I wrote an article on them for All for Climate. There's something called Natives in Tech, and it's a completely indigenous run organization, a DAO and nonprofit. And they go to different communities, indigenous communities around the country, and teach tech. And so those individual communities, like you're talking about, when they have that public good in place from the Impact DAO that could come in and then compensate for what a network state wouldn't have, which is that human connection. Kind of seems like that might be a solution.
Yeah, I got a different reading off of like the idea. Like I just posted something. This is one of like the communities on like Balaji's like dashboard of like people who want to create like one of these network states or whatever, and it's like all about solar punk and like restoration and eco-social justice and this sort of stuff. Like my interpretation was like these states, an actual individual human would probably be a citizen in like lots of different states. It's kind of just like a DAO with land and some sort of say in like the global like national interplay, like a DAO has a seat at the UN or whatever, but you might be you might be a citizen of like 12 of them or something, and then this one manages public goods and they're all about public goods, and they're like everyone who's interested in making that part of their identity and that part of their work considers themselves like a citizen of this network state. It's not like it's not just like changing the format of the US from like our current system to like a network state or something. It's just like formalizing what's already happening. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really see anything that precluded any of this or indicated any of the stuff that you're worried about. So maybe I was, again, just giving too much credit. Like, but I'd be interested if there's like a particular like passage or something where you're like, see, like if this happens, like, you know, this is a clear indication that Balaji as a person has like impure motives, or like doesn't really care about people writ large, or like, you know, these less fortunate communities or something like that.
Well, I guess I wonder if the book will get into like ultimately like who is providing the safety net for society, because like we don't particularly do a great job of that in this country, but like that's what the traditional nation state in its modern incarnation, since at least the New Deal, is set up to provide, and that I think only it can provide. So like, is he saying that like DAOs and digital nation or network states can provide that? Like maybe that's in there. I didn't get that, and like from hearing him talk, like I don't think that's what he thinks.
Well, I don't know.
That's the ultimate thing.
In my mind, that was like part of the stuff that was broken that needs to be fixed by the network state. It's like I mean, we've lived in a scenario where like our safety net is not financially like solvent, right? Like basically the safety net that people thought they were going to get like with PERS and retirement and everything is actually not solvent. They're likely going to get like 30% of what they thought they were going to get or something like that, and they worked their whole lives trying to get it, because it was just like, you know, one generation promised it, and then another generation just like took all the money out, and then another generation realizes it's not there for them. And so it's sort of like, in my mind, this is the solution to all the collapsing of these institutions and stuff. Like I don't think, in my mind, we're not starting from a place of like, the nation state's doing a pretty good job. Like people are doing like GoFundMe's to like get people out of bankruptcy for cancer. Just like, you know, Susan got cancer, let's set up a GoFundMe, like, because health insurance that was supposed to be the original GoFundMe for situations like this is like not working. And I mean, it's just, I don't know, everything is broken. So like, what is the harm? Like, we're dumping sewage and public goods where like nobody's taking care of the water. Like the EPA is toothless. Like it's not working. So like, yeah, like let's form better communities around people who care about this stuff instead of relying on the nation state bureaucracy to just like become corruptible and like make us feel like things are being done when they're not actually being done. I don't know. Am I a libertarian? Does that make me libertarian? I want a safety net for people. Like I want, you know, I want to pay taxes and then have people like be able to have housing and healthcare as like a human right. But I don't think that the current system really achieves that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all that, and I'll be curious to see how and if that's actually addressed in the book. Like, and I mean, yeah, there's plenty of like DAOs and projects that are springing up to try to address that. It's like so early, like I don't even know how to evaluate the feasibility of like any of these DAOs. But,
I don't think it's going to be addressed in the book, or I would guess that it wouldn't be, because this is more just like a platform framework thing, and it just like any technology can be used for good or ill. Like I haven't heard anything about this that like dictates that public goods be taken care of or not, or anything that seemed like up to the individual like network states to prioritize and take care of. This is sort of just like a better way to like whatever their priorities are, like whatever, like the, you could have the super left progressive network state or whatever. It's the network state does not like it's not a valence on like towards libertarian or anything. It's just sort of like whatever this group is motivated or energized by, like this is a way that like manifests if we stop thinking in terms of nation states and the ones that are already exist. Like how do you create new nation states? Like if we wanted to, like the nation states that exist now on the planet were created by like small groups of probably like sociopathic people and like whatever they, and so but now suddenly we're going to raise the bar super high where like only like this type of person and these type of people can like create nation states, because obviously the ones that exist now were created by like these superhuman people. And it's just like, we're just kind of put into this situation and we've somehow decided that like we can't do this thing anymore. Like whatever states are out there. And that was the only thing that's why I was energized by the idea is like, yes, we should be able to create new nation states. Like we shouldn't be tied down by like just things as they are. And so I like anyone who's thinking like going back to first principles, how could we do this better? Like, the US has veered off from the first principles it was founded on like quite heavily. Like what's a framework for for people who are interested in going back to that and like trying that again? Like, I don't know, how do we go about doing that? And then somebody writes a book about like, this is how you might go about doing that. Seemed pretty good to me. I don't know. It's a free book. He's well, I mean, he's not trying to like, I mean, it's definitely, he's finding ways to like make a living off of it and maybe get wealthy, but like, I don't get the sense that I don't feel like I'm buying
No,
cult or
he's not a-
something.
he's not a grifter. I mean, like I said, I think we just like like everything you just said just like brings up another criticism that I had while I was reading it. There's like a whole other thing. But
Well, that's why I keep asking you is like, I'm like, I know I have blind spots. Like, I don't mean, I'm really hoping that you can, because I hate learning about like, 3 years down the road where I was like super into this book and this framework, and then I realized this thing that was like the Jenga piece that like, if you pull that out, the whole thing like crumbles, so I definitely, I want to hear like your criticisms, like genuinely. Yeah.
like while you're saying that, which of course is, it all makes sense to like want to have like a chance to do over to try to build it back better. Like for sure, but like I'm kind of thinking of like the unintended consequences in the back of my head, and I'm thinking about did you ever read The Big Sort?
The Big Sort.
The Big Sort by Bill Bishop. It like came
Uh-huh.
out around 2007 2008, and he was a rural journalist. I like worked with him on a rural journalism project like 15 years ago, and at the time he was working on this book, and it was like, it's called The Big Sort, and it was how like we're all, again, this is around like 2005 he's writing this, and it's about how we're all like geographically like sorting like at like an unprecedented rate, because people were starting to move. Like suddenly everyone who was right leaning was moving in, like basically red states were getting redder and blue states were getting bluer, like more than ever before. And so like this book, the book didn't actually do very well at the time it came out, and now like everyone who ever writes a word in the Atlantic or whatever, or Vox or whatever, always references it, because it foresees like the like level of polarization and like tribalism that we have now, that like began with The Big Sort, which happened geographically, people physically moving into cities and neighborhoods and states where they were ideologically aligned with their neighbors, which was unusual in American history before everyone went online and you were able to sort more at will. And so like when I was reading the Bology thing, it's like, oh yes, like we can have like all these different communities where like everyone is like aligned around like, you know, whatever morals or values you have. It's like the big sort on hyperdrive is like where my mind goes, where it's like I don't know that that's actually what we need, is to be like more siloed into like more and more like niche communities and like more echo chambers. But that is
What's
what
mitigated by like the layering, right? It's kind of like because right now we are trapped, like we're trapped in this basket of values where like I have to be a Democrat because this is the thing in the Democrats party that like means the most to me. And like, so if I want this thing to get through, then I have to be a Democrat, and then I have to buy into like all this other bullshit that I might not like care about deeply. And then this decoupling just allows me to, okay, I'm going to find my people who care about this, and then I'm going to find my people who care about that. And it's actually going to allow people to mingle with, and each person that I mingle with on this issue, I probably don't agree with them on like a bunch of their issues, right? But we can team up on this one. And then, because right now we're only teaming up with people who like drink the Kool-Aid for the whole thing, right? Like this basket of 200 issues are the people you can team up with, and you all kind of have to like support each other in these things. And I view it as like we're just pulling these things apart, and in reality, you know, it's just going to be like a layer of more complex network states. But like from my perspective, you know, I can support the issues that I want to with the people who care about that issue. And I don't have to worry about what other issues they're supporting like on side or whatever. Because right now, like we can't coordinate with people who like don't buy into our entire ideology, right? It's like, I mean, even now, like we're trying to like sniff out some sort of like secret red flag in Bology's like personal ideology or something like that, where it's like I'd like to see more coordination. And I think it's happened more in like in human history than like you're saying. I think this is a result of the big sort. I'm saying this is like antithetical to that, where it's like we can team up and coordinate with people. We don't have to agree with them on everything, but we can still like, you know, save this person from the well, and we don't have to like do a litmus test of like, well, are you pro-life or pro-choice? Like, well, that doesn't matter right now. Let's go save this person from the well because we both care about that, you know. And it's like,
yeah, it would be good if there was, you know, more than just two choices. Like, oh, interesting.
there's really only one choice. Andrew Yang.
Oh my God.
I mean, he might not win anything, but he's not dumb.
He's something.
Anyway, well, with the most underwhelming Andrew Yang mic drop ever, I gotta go.
Let's get him on in the JournoDAO. He part of his book was like is what got me fired up about the whole local journalism as like securing the network article that kind of came from like him, how he talks about going around and just like the way that the farce was just like totally perpetuated by corporate media, and like his backstage view basically of like the presidential race, and how it just didn't resemble anything remotely close to like people advocating for people in need or like
Right. Yeah.
governing or leadership or anything. It was like You know, he makes a good case for how that's like the local media's not fault necessarily, but like if the local media were stronger, that stuff wouldn't be able to happen, and they were just able to be infiltrated by corporate media, and then they had to like just kind of kowtow to that agenda.
I have that experience like every time that I have to have a meeting with like the social team of a newsroom.
Mhm.
It's like we don't actually have the same values. So this is a tough conversation. All right, I gotta run, everyone. I'm gonna keep reading though.
Me too.
I'm just gonna keep talking about it.
All right. Take care, everyone.
All right, thanks y'all.
Bye, everybody. See ya.